lives one day at a time. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. They're here to get your day going fine. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio.
And here's your host, Miss Kim Robinson.
True too. What's up, DB? I think we're gonna make them swag it out to this one. Yeah. They gonna dance to this one. I can see that. Yeah.
Give me some love, give me respect, give me my God, give me some space, give me your blessing. Dance like you holy, dance like you holy. Give me some love, give me respect, give me my God, give me some space, give me your blessing. Dance like you holy, dance like you holy. You say you're real with it, so real with it. Then you be your big gun chillin' it. Cause the dick is you don't know who you dealing with. Show me some respect, cause I ain't cleaning with the silliness. Surrounded by the fake, you don't really get it. Never compromise for some dividends. I did it before, but I never will again. Asking God for the forgiveness for my sins. I'm a child of the king, yes, I'm a child of the king. The devil can shatter my dreams. Good ground is where plant my seeds, yeah. I got plenty muscle, grinding and easy hustle. Been in the struggle, been in the dungeon, but only a chief for the lunches. Homie, the road with the punches. All people perish for the lack of knowledge. Why you think we attract the violence? College, it ain't for everybody. Some intelligence, stack your wallet. I been real, told you I'm cold like a windshield. Roll like a big wheel, spinning like windmills, and we will. Give me some love, give me respect, give me my God, give me some space, and give me your blessing. Dance like you holy, dance like you holy. Give me some love, give me respect, give me my God, give me some space, give me your blessing. Dance like you holy, dance like you holy.
Everything they do is in your face too close and I can see the pose. I told you. They act so holy, act like they don't know me. Mess up my energy, offensive, religiously, unevenly yoked. They don't mix with my chemistry. No profit out of the pocket, speaking in riddles all off topic. Planning starships and rockets, spinning the word bicycle sprocket. What is your option? Heaven or hell? So what I dwell will I prevail? It's the time to get it close, I am a saved by the bell. Purposely ordained to carry the day. Baptized in the joy and pain, not a slave, turning the pain. Toss a car, breaking the tape. Shuffle it out like I get to it, ain't easy being true to all let go. Fill the room, now I'm attacking all the beats. Till I can see, I think it's all needed. Like the opinion, give me a minute. Everything good come from God. Throw an order off to me, you bop my head like the baby. Ain't no ifs, ands, or maybe. Keep on walking in the light, while the rest be so safe. They can love me, hate me, the blood is thicker than gravy. Two on the word, better take that. Shocking amazing grace covers the room, ready, set. Boom, he ain't dead, you heard what I said. The living bread, go check the tune. The bridegroom's returning soon, dang.
Give me some love, give me respect, give me my God, give me some space, and give me your blessing. Dance like you holy, dance like you holy. Give me some love, give me respect, give me my God, give me some space, give me your blessing. Dance like you holy, dance like you holy.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to Elation Radio. This is Minister Sedric with Relentless Pursuit. Oh, I hope we've all had a wonderful, wonderful week, because I've had a great week. I've been working. I've been just praising God, and I've just been loving the people. That's what we do here. All right, tons and tons of praise reports. One special one is I'm back. We all back. Got Jason on one side. I got Terry on the other side. We're all back, and we're all having a good time. So last week we had such an exciting time. So we wanted to talk a little bit more about the equity versus equality. More importantly, black equity versus equality. And I'm looking forward. I'm looking so forward to having this conversation with my brothers, because they bring a lot of intellectual firepower to the table. Me, I'm just a third grade education having kind of guy. Y'all know me. I don't have much, but But I didn't even have a devotional ready for today. Can y'all believe that? I was just at a loss. I was just so excited to just be here. So I don't even have a devotional ready for today. So since I don't have one readily available, I'm gonna go ahead and bring on our guest. I want to bring on Terry. Hey Terry, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Mr. Sedric. How you doing, sir?
Oh man, I'm feeling like $1 million. Feeling like $1 million. Good to have you back, sir. Jason, you out there? I want to bring ahead and bring you in.
Yes, sir. I'm here. How we doing today?
Y'all know I'm doing good. I've already been silly already. Y'all like the little comment I threw out there? Can't read your mind and can't read your intentions. Y'all like that?
That was pretty good.
Yeah. You know what they say? Today's a good day. I don't know. I grew up in Get Down, Deep Town, Dallas, Texas, and I grew up listening to the Ghetto Boys. Don't tell nobody that, but that's what I grew up listening to. And and the Ice Cubes of the world. And Ice Cube said today was a good day. I ain't gonna tell you the one that the Ghetto Boys had, but check it out. Man, last week where we left off, and I know we talked about some wonderful things, but I wanted to get more into basically equality and the differences in the two. And man, I started off. I'm just gonna jump right in. Y'all don't mind, do you? We just jump right in.
No, go ahead.
Good. All right, good. So of course, you look up the word in the dictionary and you find that equality is the quality or state of being equal, right? And then if you go up and you look up the word equity, right, it's defined as, check this out, justice according to the natural law or right, specifically freedom from bias or favoritism, fairness or justice in the way people are treated, right? So and then it goes on to say fairness especially as distinguished from mechanical application of rules, right? So and I hope that made sense. I know I kind of read it broken because I'm trying to do too many things at once. But at its core, equity and equality, they mean two different things. Kind of what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. I text you guys a couple of kind of subject matter that I wanted to kind of go over. And if you would, since we all have them in the same order, we can go over them as the way they're stated there. But first off, how do you guys feel about the and these are from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. How do you feel about understanding the difference between equity and equality as defined by the dictionary?
Yeah, I'll go with that. There's some other things, we can break it down a little bit further when we get into talking about equity, but for the basics of it, yeah, I can go with that.
Okay, how about yourself, Jason?
I tell you, I struggle a little bit when they talk about fairness, right? It creates a really subjectional term, because I was right before we got on the phone call, I looked up those definitions, and equality was real simple. But when he talked about fairness, I got a really weird feeling in my gut, because I can tell you right now, what I think is fair is going to be completely, totally different from that, from somebody else who grew up with a different circumstance, a different situation. So even in that definition of equity, I think there will be some biases that come in, because I may say, well, that's not fair, and then somebody else may say that is fair. So
okay, but check this out. Okay, let me help you with that. Okay, the definition I have on equity, right, is defined as justice according to natural law or right. Check this out. Specifically, freedom from bias or favoritism, fairness, or justice in the way people are treated, or justice according to fairness, especially as distinguished from mechanical application of rules. Right. So I get it. I mean, the only thing I can think of when you think about fairness, Jason, I know that word is what stuck with you, but without fairness, or in fairness meaning, basically, I know it's suggestive, but can we agree that fairness means across the board treating everybody, I guess the word I would use is equally or right.
Mhm. I can go with that. Yes, that's definitely it.
And I would also go with that, but I'll tell you this: I have, I'm not gonna lie, I listen to conservative radio and news, and one of the things when they promote or they reflect on, especially some of these police shootings, police brutality, they actually present it as, well, they got what they deserve. What do you expect when you reach into your car and try to grab a knife? It's like, I don't expect to, and the way they present it is, it's not just, you hear that repeatedly, and we talked about this, at length, where people are like, well, I didn't know racism exists. I'm like, how did you not know? Because secretly in their head, what they're saying is, well, what those people got by them beatings from the cop, they deserved, right? So even when we talk about equity, even when we talk about fairness, I think people in their minds, they will come out and say, well, a criminal got what he deserved. Don't break the law, you wouldn't get beat up by a cop.
Okay, but understand where fairness falls into this. Again, we're talking about, when you use the word fairness, and what I don't want to do is get overly stuck on this word. I don't want to keep on trying to make this word fit, because at some point you're going to have to make up in your own mind, okay, I understand what fairness is. Fairness is like justice. If you and I'm white, you're black, you and I commit the exact same crime, we have the exact same background. Matter of fact, we committed the crime together, and it was neither of our ideas. We were just walking down the street, we saw a window in the house open, you looked at me, I looked at you, and said, man, we both need money, let's go rob this house. We go rob the house, okay? Nobody gets killed, but we get caught 2 weeks later. I get a sentence of 6 months probation. You get a sentence of 6 months in jail. Where's the fairness in that? We both got treated differently. Right. So fairness, yes, it is subjective, but it's usually subjective to the person handing down the sentence or the punishment. And so whomever is shown the favoritism, they're the beneficiary of what is fair or unfair. So yes, it's subjective, but let's just be honest and let's just be open-minded here. It means that one party gets treated better than the other. Favoritism.
Can I say something?
You don't agree with that? Yes, go right ahead.
I'm going to jump in on that, because basically what the definition that you gave of fairness is tied into it's legal. It's based on the rule of natural, what it says, law. I think it's what you said,
natural
law there somewhere.
Natural law.
So basically, underneath this definition of equity, it's basically it's going to be fair under the law. Period. There's not going to be any biases. There's not going to be any personal whatever's in there. It's all okay. If the law says you commit this crime, everybody, regardless of their race, gender, wherever they are from, they get treated the same. They get the same sentence. There's not going to be a deviation away from it, according to equity, the definition, which means there has to be. No, that's
not what equity is saying. No. I know, but that's not what it's saying. No, you got to go back and read that. Justice according to natural law or right. Natural law or right. According to natural law or right. Okay, so when you throw in the word right, I'm black, I'm white, I'm the white guy in this scenario, Jason's the black guy. I have more rights than Jason. Let's say this is 1958. I have more rights. Jason ain't got certain rights. Jason gets a tougher sentence. It's not fair. So, but let's not. That's the way the definition reads to me. I just don't want to get hung up on what's fairness, what the word fairness means. Jason, look up the word fairness and read the definition off. The reason is, we 15 minutes in and we talk about the word fairness. But that's okay, because you know what? If the three of us disagree on the word, then imagine what it's like around the rest of the world. So yeah, let's talk about that word. Let's talk about it for a couple more minutes.
Fairness, impartial or just treatment or behavior without favoritism or discrimination. The quality of having The other one just talked about skin complexion. But yes, impartial and just treatment or behavior without favoritism or discrimination.
Without.
Right. Okay. I can buy that definition.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I can buy that definition.
Okay. So we good.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So in equity, Terry, you're 100% right. I interpreted what I was saying 100% wrong. See how you look at that? So again, I wasn't really wrong. I was just saying the way I said it, but that would make everything easy. So we're talking about, when you look at equity, we're talking about freedom from bias or favoritism, or fairness or justice in the way that people are treated. We're talking about a freedom from any kind of biases. We're being treated equally, right? All right. So, but see, I think there is a difference. So what would you guys say the difference between the two are? Equality and equity.
I'm gonna jump out on a limb on this. Equity, when you break down equity, there has to be some structural and systematic pieces that need to be addressed, before there can be equality. You know what I'm saying?
Say that again.
There's some structural and systematic things that need to be addressed before you can move from equity to equality. Does that make sense? You've got to be able to address the systematic piece. Like, take, for instance, let's look at the prison thing or the jail thing, like you just mentioned. You've got to address the differences that do exist within the criminal justice system as far as sentencings are concerned. Why is it that the black person gets more years for the same crime that a white person? What is the systematic things that are in place? What is the structural thing? What are the policy things that are in place that need to be addressed? For equity, prime example, like what happened with Breonna Taylor here in Louisville. Their family settled out of court for $12 million, but they came to the table. They said, look, before we settle, there's some structural things that need to change so that there can be equity in the way people are treated under the law. So they had a list of things that they had that the city had to agree to implement to begin that process, okay, of creating equity. So there was some structural changes that needed to occur. Community policing is one of them, along with a few other things that are in there that they wanted to have addressed. So again, so there can be equity, so there can be fairness, injustice under the law.
Okay. Okay. So I agree with what you're saying. I mean, so the basic difference you're seeing is the whole fairness piece, and there are some things, some systemic things. Because you just opened up another can of worms for me. Systemic and systematic. Mm-hmm. Those words kind of sort of are not interchangeable, but we won't get into it. But there are some things that you're saying that have to change in order for us to have true equality or equity.
Equity, and then equality. Because think about it. Because you got to think in terms of equality aims at ensuring that everyone gets the same things. Okay, yeah, that's equality. Okay, that's what equality basically is. It aims at ensuring that everyone gets the same things. Now, but you can't ensure that. You can't ensure that until there's equity, until everything is, until the things that are in place, the policies, the procedures, all those different things are dealt with. Systematic stuff is dealt with.
See, I say you have it backwards. Jason, what say you? I'll let you know about that. It's just me, Terry. We'll be able to discuss it. But I say you have it. But I'll let you talk, Jason.
So I would say that if you ask me the difference between equity and equality just says equality looks at what's being given, right? I'm going to make sure everybody is given the same thing. Equity recognizes where people are at, and it recognizes that, hey, yeah, you are already 3 steps ahead, right? So even if I give everybody the same thing, you're still going to be 3 steps ahead. And I think when you ask me the difference between equity and equality, I think that's the difference. Is like equality is just hey, I'm just gonna give everybody the same thing, right? Where equity recognizes, okay, there is something different already in this circumstance, so no matter what I give, it doesn't fill that gap in. And then when you want to talk about the differences and the variance, that's when you start talking about systemic things, cultural things that are out there that causes that variance. But just to kind of talk about the difference between equity and equality, equality recognizes what I'm giving. Equity recognizes what I'm dealing with. And I think we spend a lot of time, and everybody wants to talk about equality because it doesn't make you deal with circumstances and situations that have been created, right? Everybody wants to say, oh yeah, right. I want to make things equal for you. Yeah, but let's talk about the equity. Let's talk about the situation I'm in now that has been created by these systems and these things in place and this history and all these other things. People don't want to talk about that because that makes people uncomfortable, right? They want to talk about like, oh, why are we here? They just want to talk about, hey, I'm going to give everybody $1,000. Well, it doesn't matter if you give me $1,000 if you already created a system and I'm already $1,500 in the hole, right? So your $1,000 really don't do anything for me.
Well, can I say something, Jason? Jason, you're right on point. If you don't mind. Because I think about like what's going on right now. Trump has removed any type of diversity. Any type of true teaching of Black history for the most part on the federal level, and he's just signed this whole thing about creating we're just going to teach patriotic pieces. They're not going to address. They're going to slavery will be in there. But they're not going to talk about the systematic racism. They're not going to talk about any of those things. He doesn't want to talk about those things. He wants to keep the playing field uneven still, okay, because he doesn't see or he doesn't want to see the balance, what would happen, if that's taught.
Okay. But here's the deal. Here's the point I was getting at. I think that the two of you kind of hit on it when you talk about equality. Terry, I understood you to say that equity in itself is not possible until we achieve true equality. Am I correct?
No. We've got to achieve equity. You've got to say equity. You've got to get equity first before there can be equality.
Okay, so you're saying
you've got to address that.
So you're saying we won't achieve equality until after we achieve equity first. And Jason, are you saying the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
because it's funny because I believe that the two of you are right. As I misunderstood you the first time, Terry, is that I believe that in order to get to true equality, we have to achieve equity first. And equity, I like your definition, Jason, because equity is giving people what they need, right? So I sent you guys that little picture, that little photo, right? And if you notice in the first illustration, you have you got the 3 students trying to look at the baseball game. Each student has a crate that's the same size. One of the kids still can't see over the fence. And then the second one, the kid who couldn't see over the fence, he gets all the crates he needs to see over the fence, right? So the first one would be equality, right, because they all got the same thing. The second one would be equity. They all got what they needed. Now they can all see the game. And then if you move over to the third one, there's a fence, and it's just a wire fence that they can all see through. And now, we have a perfect utopia in that sense, right? We're all getting not only what we need, and we're getting treated with equality, but we also are allowed to see everything. We're allowed to do everything that there is. But one of the things I want you to kind of think about when we're talking about that, because we're kind of getting into to basically access. So let's talk about the education aspects of this part. It now, once we achieve that the equality, right? Now when you look at corporate America, go ahead. You said what?
Once we achieve equality or equity? I'm confused.
I said equality.
And where we are. Oh, okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Because then we agree you cannot get to that point without equity first, right?
Right. So you're saying we've already achieved equity, so now we can successfully move to equality, and now we're talking about what we look like once equality has been
Amen.
established. Right.
Right.
Yep, gotcha.
Once you first get what you need, you got what you need. Now here's the real thing, because once we get to that equality thing, we're talking about access now, and this is how we overcome a lot of these things. Of course, I've been reading a lot online, but think about this. We get to a point where we call access, and access is just what it says. It's access. We have equal access, right? And when we start talking about access, this is kind of what holds us back. This is when you start getting into, Terry, the systemic breakdown in our country right now. I mean, think about this. Think about this. Equality, we haven't quite achieved that yet. Because we well, yes and no, right? The equity tells us we get everything we need. Do we get what we need most of the time in our society?
No.
Because I'm thinking of access, and I'm thinking of one of the foremost things right now. What we need in our society right now is access. We need access to good, affordable health care. Am I right?
Right.
And what is this system trying to do right now with I'm gonna use Obamacare. What is the system trying to do right now with that?
They're trying to dismantle it.
Right.
To make it not accessible.
And so, and I guess the question is, what does that do to our system? I mean, again, the difference between equity and equality, what does that do to our system? You know, like I guess I want to say it like this. I'm trying to think of who it was. DeRay McKesson. He says that the difference between equity and equality is that equality is everyone gets the same thing, but equity is everyone gets the thing that they deserve.
Right.
Well,
correct.
So how does that work? How does that work in our society today? How do we make these changes? I want you to ponder a point. A question I have, and this is a question that I found online, right? It basically what she says is that it's important to note that inclusion begins within. It begins by asking simple questions. Here's a question that she put out. She says, the question is, what have I been taught, and what do I believe about equity and or equality? So basically what we were just talking about, what do you guys actually think about equity and equality? And then I have one other question. So either one of y'all can jump in and answer that. This is a simple one. I know we pretty much already tested, so it shouldn't take but a second to answer that. I want to make it simple for everybody.
For me, it's like I always thought about equality, but I never thought about equity. And it's only been here in these last couple of months that it's come up. And even on this phone call and this conversation, my definition of equity has been expanded. You know, so from what I was always raised to talk about equality. You know, equal treatment, equal this, equal that, but not many questions about equity, right? So, in fact, it was almost the opposite. It was like, all right, well, you're given an unfair shot, just overcome it, right? And that was the mentality my mom raised me. She was like, she recognized that the system was unfair, and growing up black was going to put me, I'm going to have to do a little bit more. And she basically just told me, that's your reality, deal with it, move on. And to a point that was great, because it inspired a strength in me that forced me to not let my circumstance overcome. But to another point, it was a detriment because I never looked at equity, because in my head I accepted that equity didn't exist and I just have to overcome my circumstance. And I think too many of us do that, either on a positive sense or a negative sense.
But you know what's funny about what you said, though? Equity, your mom said you'll have to do more to achieve what other people have. You'll just have to do more to achieve that goal, right?
Right.
So that would say equity she provided you with the equity you needed. The things that you needed in life, you were provided with. She had a home for you. You had a place to stay. You had a place to study. You had all these things you needed, because we're going to jump into the education part of this as well. You had everything you needed. Now, but the system itself was broken, because you still couldn't achieve, and you still didn't have true equality, because you weren't treated equally. And you got the same things.
I would argue that she didn't give me everything I needed. You know, because let me ask you a question. How many of those white kids grow up being told you have to work twice as hard to get half as much? You know, because they walk into a situation with a different mindset than I do. And when I start thinking about equity,
equality wasn't there.
No, when I start thinking about equity, is that mindset that they walk in with a mindset that, hey, if I work hard and do my best, I can be successful. I'll walk into that same situation that says I got to be better than my best just to succeed. So and you see this. You see that there are certain people who will take that as a challenge and say, I'm going to overcome and become, very successful with it. But then you see other people take that mindset and be like, get defeated, and their greatness goes to waste. So I would argue that that's not equity, right? Because I've got two people walking into the same situation, but because of what they've been given, they're going to approach it differently.
But you've been given what you needed. Let's put it the way McKesson said it. You've been given what you deserve. So you saying I still ain't got what I deserve yet, right? Am I right? That's what you're saying.
Right. I deserve to be able to think that I can walk into a situation and just be me and do my best and have to succeed. I don't deserve to have to walk into a situation understanding that, well, because of this system, I'm going to have to work harder. I don't deserve that. So no one deserves that.
So you're going to roll me right into my next point. Okay, so now we're really talking about access. What does access really mean? See, this is a tricky little thing. Man, do you understand our system in America was built on issues like this, and they can be ultra confusing. They can be ultra confusing. And the key for us here is to kind of unscramble this puzzle a little bit, because one thing leads to another and another and another. And how do we break down this system that we have in place? Because when you go into companies, different governments, your school system, and even our religious institution, right? Everybody wants to be treated equally. But when you think about it, working towards this equality, it completely covers our eyes and shields us from all the obstacles that we got to overcome to get to equality.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I jump in on Minister? I'm thinking about, when I think about all this, as far as what you just said, I think about education. Education is giving us a glimpse at what could be, as far as equity is concerned. Everybody, again, equality, again, it's just basically everybody has been given, it aims to ensure that everyone gets the same things in order to enjoy a full and healthy life. We get that. But equity, when you look at it on the education, everybody can go to school or go to a trade if they wanted to. It's there. But some of the structures and systematic things that were put in place to weed out those, to weed out people, is now coming down. Take, for instance, now you got schools that don't even require ACT or SAT entrance exams. You've got some schools, what they're doing is they're making it now where everybody, like anybody that, like Western Kentucky right now, is tuition free. Any freshman in Kentucky who receives Pell Grant assistance. Okay? So they're removing some of those structural and systematic barriers that were put in place. They're creating access. Thank you. They're creating access. So it's not only equity, but they're now creating access for students, for anybody. So if you want to go to a trade school, if you want to go to college, it's accessible to you now. Whereas before, it wasn't.
So it's funny because I'm thinking, and again, I appreciate you guys for pushing us into this whole access thing. So when you think of access, I'm gonna think of it like this, right? If we think of access, this is an example I read online. So if we think of access as a doorway, right? We first must be given access to the doorway. Check this out. Then the next thing we have to make sure of is there's a means of getting people to the door, or even that there's a door there at all.
Right.
So equity and equality both play again, we've got both of them, right? Equity, we've got equality, and now we're looking at access to improve on these things, to get better on these things. And what I mean by access, think about this. Think about if you guys live in a city and you ride the train to work, right? Well, let's say we all drive cars. And a bridge goes down, right? Or a road's torn up, however, whatever the reason. Now we got to take public transportation. Now, we find that when we start riding public transportation, that as long as you're in the urban areas, the inner city areas, you can catch public transportation, go anywhere, do anything, anytime, day or night. Mute your phones, please, right? You find that you can do all these things. But then for those of us who live in the suburbs, we start having problems with the bus routes, the times. They don't run as frequently. They don't make as many stops. We can't get to where we need to go to, right? So we all have access to public transportation, but it doesn't go far enough. And I think in our society, that's what's happening now. And I guess my question is, even with schools, you've got a million things you've got to jump through to get to what you need. I guess my question is, who benefits by this access or lack thereof access? And how can we fix this? Or what are we missing?
So I think when we talk about the access that you're talking about, I think it goes back to what we originally talked about. See, I think we're remiss when we only leave equity to the people without power. We need to talk about equity with the people with power. Because when I think about equity, that means I recognize.
Say that again. Say that again, Jason.
I think we need to start thinking about equity and equality, not just for the people who don't have the power, but with the people who do have the power. I should be able to walk into any institution or any if I'm going in to get a loan, if I'm going in to go for a job, I should not be seen as a black guy, and the biases that this person has with it comes, and now he's already looking at me in a certain way. And I may answer the question the exact same way as a white person, but because he's already got those biases, he's going to come out with a different thing. So when we talk about equity and we talk about equality, I think especially with the equity and that fairness, I need to be, not only do I need to be recognized. When we talk about fairness, I mean equity, I think about the circumstance, right? Let's recognize the circumstance for what it is. First of all, the people without power, we don't have that power. We don't have a certain access. But then the people with the power, they've got to recognize their circumstances. I look at you differently because you're different from me, right? So if you want to talk about the system being completely, totally reformed, we need to have equity on both sides of the table. Where then, you recognize my situation where, okay, I didn't grow up in a two-family home, so there's certain things I may need that person who grew up in a two-family home didn't. But then the person with the power has to recognize, what, I didn't grow up being surrounded by, black, African Americans and people of color, So I need to recognize my situation and then shift my mindset so that when I see that person, I see him just like I see Bobby that I grew up with and I went to third grade with. So when you talk about that access part, you really got to talk about the people who are the gatekeepers, right?
So now we're talking about opportunity, right? now we're talking about
an implicit bias.
Right?
Yes.
Well, we're talking about opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the point I want to make in this is just like I sent you guys these topics. It's kind of funny if you look at them. Now we're jumping into opportunity. We're talking about the gaps in opportunity now, and as with my example about the public transportation system, there are certain areas that we won't have control of. There's not like there's not equality in those areas, right? And so I don't want to leave anything out, but I want to say this though, because I believe the truth in our society, if we want to make these true changes, is that we all, not all of us, but we all need more. In our society right now, Jason, you made a very good point of talking about the people in the positions of power. How do you educate those ill-informed people? How can we get through to them? Terry, you were just talking about, you said implicit bias. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Help
elaborate.
And that's one of the things. That's one of those preconceived notions that people have about other people of other races. I think we talked about this a few shows ago, and how those preconceived people view other people through those preconceived notions or preconceived experiences that they may have had with maybe one or two other people of that race. They just throw a blanket statement over everybody, like all black men, they steal, or all black men, they're rapists, or all black men are, so really it's really being able to help people begin to address those issues. Now, mind you, that's going to make them uncomfortable. I think you even said that earlier in this conversation, because now they're going to have to take a look at how all these things have affected my ability to see Jason as a human being, someone that's equally talented, and it's not about his skin color, but it's about what he can bring to the table. And really helping people to begin to address their preconceived ideas of what a particular person or race, what they got in their head.
Right.
Now, Terry, I will tell you that's going to be really difficult, because I shared this story with you, where we've had, with the current circumstance and situation, one of the things that has really been a benefit is that I've had, white people come, especially in the church environment, and they come and they say, "Man, look, I didn't know this stuff existed, and I want to understand more, and I want to understand what you're feeling and what you're going through." And in my mind, I'm like, you didn't know because you chose to ignore, because you watch those TV shows, you watch that person talking about, I got beat by a cop, and yet and still you rationalize in your head a certain way. And even when they come to the table, and what I've noticed is even when they come to the table with, "Oh, I didn't know," they just want to act like they don't want to talk about how did you ignore, right? Because it wasn't the fact that you didn't know. We can't say there was a lack of information, right? We cannot say that the information wasn't out there and the reports weren't out there. What we have to say, and we have to be truthfully honest, is that I saw those reports, I heard those reports, but something inside me dismissed this human being and the reports this human being gave me and rationalized the treatment that they had. And that's what people really don't want to talk about. They want to come to and say, "Oh, I see this thing now, and yeah, how do we change it?" And I'm like, well, the change comes in the fact that you had that mindset and mentality, and until you recognize how you got there, how are you ever going to be able to fix it? Just because you tell me, "Oh yeah, I want to do different now," well, what happens when you don't shift that mindset and you really dehumanize a person, right? And so I struggle, because although I appreciate the gesture, I want to let's talk about the symptoms, right? Don't come to me with let's talk about the problem. Don't come to me with the symptoms. "Oh, I didn't see it, so tell me about it." No. The problem is you chose to ignore it, and let's address that, because that's where real change is now happening. Because something in you process some information, and you dehumanize that person in that situation to say, "Well, you know what? No big deal," or "I don't need to do anything about it," or "You know what? He got what he deserves." So as we talk about implicit bias, I think that's one thing we have to address.
Right, but so you said you've used the term "he got what he deserves" several times, and we're talking about equity, and we're talking about what people deserve. But what I think think of the word deserve, now I think of somebody getting what they're qualified to get. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be because of their actions or because of the situation, just they get what they deserve. So when you say that somebody says, "Oh, he got what he deserves," you're talking about what? Because I got a little bit lost in it.
They're talking about some of the treatment that has been inhumane, right? You know, like you say, you want to say what you qualify for. Well, you qualify to get your butt kicked by the cop because you didn't comply to his orders. I've heard that.
Okay, so
I've heard that many times. Even today, I hear that.
Right. Now, you guys do realize when we're talking about equity and equality, we're talking about over a whole scope of our lives. Like Jason, you're talking about a police justice right now. Am I correct? The justice system, right?
Right.
Okay, and then but before we were starting to talk about the education system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I want us to realize is as we talk about this, let's talk about equity and equality as it relates to each topic. So now we're on the criminal justice thing. Let's talk about it in that. Because I just really want to understand myself, and I want other people to understand what we're talking about. Because I don't want it to just be all over the board. Okay, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense to you, Jason?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so jumping back on your topic, Jason, and Terry, if you have a different topic, we'll go back to it. But jumping on your topic, what you're saying, but I guess my question is, how do we combat that? How do I change the way you think? Is it simply education? Do we need to look at, the influences that go into this whole, into our identities as we experience the world through our own eyes? How do we combat that?
Yes. It's got to be all the way around. It's got to be a total 360? Yeah, because you know how, like I mentioned this before, how the media portrays us, how even leadership in government portrays us. We're thugs, where everybody else is mentally ill. It's attacking all those things all the way around to begin to help educate people. Because like I mentioned this to you before, Sedric, I grew up.
Right.
I grew up in pretty much. I knew how they thought.
I know.
They didn't have to take the time to learn me.
Right.
They learned me from TV and what they saw. Police arresting folks.
But again, that in itself is not true. They didn't learn you. They learned a stereotype.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
Right, and I think you when we talk about education, that's we've hit on this several times.
Let's not go to education. Let's not go to education.
Not education in the sense of formal education. When we're talking about educating people, do you ask how do we overcome this? Is it just about educating people?
Okay.
So we're not talking about education in the formal sense, like schooling. We're talking about addressing the problem through education, right? And we talked about this. It's the media bias. It's the things that are being reflected. It's that dehumanization from the time that we start in grade school. Something hit me really hard when I was at a rally, and a young gentleman talked about our history books and what we learned in history. And I remember when we were talking about slavery and those times in history, feeling almost embarrassed sitting in that classroom as they talked about black people.
Really?
Right. Right, because they're like, oh, these slaves, and just painted this group of people to be lesser than how they were treated. And although I had never experienced a day of slavery in my life, as I sat in that classroom and heard this with my white counterparts, it wasn't hard for me to internalize, like identify with those people, and then be like, are they looking at me that way? Do they think of me that way? Right? Because all the pictures you saw were shared with these people and just they weren't shown at their best, right? So we have all this that we grow up in, and these things kind of shape and form our perspective. So then when we get out there in the real world and we get a little older, and now we have the ability to make influences, those shapes are still there, right? So when we talk about like trying to get to know one another, man, there's so many barriers to break down. You know, how do I get the person to see like I have feelings just like you have feelings, right? I hurt just like you hurt. Now the different things might hurt us differently, but you know, to recognize the hurt and pains that I'm experiencing and I'm dealing with, and not dismiss those, right? Because that's what happens far too many times. People dismiss things because of, you know, what looks like behavior things. Oh, well, you know what, he was acting that way, so like I said, he deserved what he got from the cop. And no one deserves to be treated that way. No one deserves to be handled that way. And I'm not justifying the behavior. I'm not saying the behavior was right. But I'm like, man, you know. But see, and I'll tell you, let their kids get treated that way. I bet you they won't say that you deserved it.
Yeah, but so I mean, I'm just listening to y'all, and I mean, it looks like we're in a situation that ain't gonna ever change, and we can't change it. So I'm gonna ask you this question. So let's say you guys were in power. Let's say you guys were running the government. What would you do to try and change up some of this stuff? What would you do to try and fix this problem? What would you do to basically set it up so that you can influence equity, equality, and inclusion in our society? How would you handle it? How could we handle it? What's really important about what we're saying right now?
I mean, I think it really starts with, you know, true vulnerability to the hurts and pains. And like I said, I truly believe it goes both ways. I don't believe that, you know, that person who didn't grow up around black people, didn't really see them, didn't socialize through media, through the learning of history and all that stuff. I don't think they intentionally developed these thoughts and beliefs. It just kind of happened, you know. But I think it comes down to
you think it's good. Wait a minute, hold on. You think it just kind of happened? That's kind of like a woman getting pregnant. Oh, it just kind of happened. What?
No, because it's really interesting. I always do this study. I always ask people, what's your definition of beauty? And they'll tell me all these things, but what they don't tell me is what they look like. And when you ask them, like, where'd you get that definition of beauty from? Most people can't really understand how they have the thoughts that they have. And what that really is that over years of being exposed to something, it shapes you. Not in big ways. Everybody can remember the big shaping, the big event.
Right, but
those little things that you see consistently over time, they shape you, and you don't even know.
Well, listen to what you just said. Listen to what you just said. Before you said, "Oh, it just kind of happened," but now you're saying, "Oh, these are these little things that we've been doing over time." So how do you change those little things?
So when I say it just kind of happens, it doesn't mean like without. What I mean by that is there is no I don't think the person themselves intentionally go out to seek these things, right? They're exposed to certain things because of the choices they make. So when I say it just kind of happens, it's not one of those things I'm saying that, oh yeah, you know, hey, you know, it's just random. No, it was exposure. It was, you know, the things you get yourself involved with. Yeah.
Well, we got that part fixed. So we all agree that in our society right now, it didn't just happen overnight. We all agree that it can be fixed, though, right? These things can be fixed because here we are, September the 18th, 2020, Friday, and here we are. It's almost a 6 p.m. Standard Time, or Central Standard Time. So we agree that these things can be fixed, right? Like this whole merit system, it seems like our entire society is based on a merit system. And the merit system itself is unfair, it's biased, and we keep losing. We always, you know, the one thing that we are good at as black people in this country, you know the one thing that we're really good at? And few of us see any benefit from it. Here it is. We set trends. Have you ever thought about that? And we get there's no benefit for us except we spend more money. And what I mean by we set trends, look at the clothes that we wear. The biggest influence. The music we listen to. The most popular type of music in this country is influenced by who? The most popular types of clothes they are influenced by who?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the most profitable businesses that are definitely unfair and biased are in what neighborhood?
Mm-hmm.
And they're influenced by who?
Right.
Let me give y'all some examples. Look at Nike. Biggest spokesperson Nike got is Michael Jordan. He's a black athlete, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the most profitable businesses in the country, they get their influence in the urban communities, mostly in black communities. I got two of them off the top of my head. I can say liquor stores and some chip cashing places, right? With the high
right.
Yeah. Let's look at clothing. I mean, urban wear. Everybody wants to walk around with oversized shirts and big sagging pants, and who is the biggest influencer of this gear? And so I think that because we don't have the equity and the equality that we need, that we possess in our workplace environments and in our judicial system, we are run amok. And the sad thing is, just like with our conversation today, I don't know if you guys even felt it, man, though I had these great outlines in my head of how the conversation was going to go, I felt like we were all three on just a little bit different sheets of music. But everything that was said is so important, and it goes back to our community. How can we help with just short answers here if we can, because we got about 4 or 5 minutes, but we can take about 10. But let's look at our community from the inside out real quick here. Let's take a really quick look. How can we foster the growth that we seek in the world? How can we foster that in our own communities? And let's just take 30, 40 seconds at a time each, and let's just talk about it. Either one of you guys want to start?
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of recognizing the hurts and the pains and the traumas that we dealt with. And the first thing is that as a people, we just gotta help each other get through this, right? Because we're all being traumatized the same. And then once we do that as a community, it's having a lot of compassion for your brother and sister. And even when they do you wrong, understand that we are stronger together than we are apart, right?
Okay.
And
so you say compassion.
And compassion. But I'm not saying don't let them take advantage. But like, let's talk. Let's try to encourage one another. Let's try to walk beside one another and let's just do better together.
Okay, Terry, what say you?
Yeah, I have to agree with Jason on that one. It's really about helping each other through this and really ministering to the needs of each other, being able to, because there's been a lot of trauma.
Right.
There's been not just trauma, but it's, but I have to agree with Jason on that.
I guess what I'm hearing is we got to help each other. How are we going to help each other? Well, you going to hold my hand? You going to give me a job? You going to give me some money? You going to write me a check? You going to educate me? You going to make sure the police don't beat me? You going to give me a hiding place when I'm running from the cops? How are we helping each other? I'm just asking because I really don't know. Because the thoughts I have in my head right now is this right here. I ask myself this question when it comes up to my experience in the life that I lead, especially when I'm out and about. What voice do I hear over others, or what voice do I honor the most when it comes to people talking? I ask my question, and I look at our group, and I look at us as a people, and I say, are we properly represented in all of these areas? Because my biggest thing is this. People talk about we live in a Christian society, right? But I got one brother over here that say, I don't vote because I don't believe Jesus should vote. Then I got another brother over here that says, well, I'm going to go vote, but I'm not even going to vote for the guy who seems to be the Christian. I'm going to vote for the guy who doesn't seem to be the Christian. We're so out there. How do we bring it together? How do we get one consistent message? How do we do it? And that's a bazillion-dollar question, but I think we know the answer. And I just think it's just going to take a whole bunch of hard work. And the answer is, check it out. Check it out. I believe that the answer is in the old African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child, right? But we're all children at this point. So who's going to raise us? Who's going to help us forward? I hear guys all the time, they talk on the radio, they talk about black equity. Black people need to get together, join forces. We start our own schools, grocery stores, whatever, our own communities and pretty soon our own cities and things of that nature. But how do we do it? How do we do it? And that's what I want to leave you with today. I want to leave you with the think about that, because I was thinking about how my experience has shaped my perspective on all the things that go on around me and all the people that I talk to. And then I also think, how can I leverage my influence, my power, or whatever it is I have to foster this growth? Because honestly, equity, equality, and access or inclusion is another word. And we really, truly, as a people, we don't have all that we need. It's like a handful of us have it, and then the rest of us don't. And I find that we're not reaching back to do what you guys said, help one another, to minister to one another, to foster growth in one another. So I'm going to be thinking about this some more over the coming weeks. And I just, when I think of equity, what is equity? Terry, you want to tell us what equity is?
Is the fairness, basically the level playing field. Based on the rule, based on the rule of natural law. Everybody's treated the same. Everybody structurally, systematically, everything is leveled out to where it's equal for everyone.
You define equality or equity?
Not equal, but where it's accessible to everyone.
You get what you deserve.
So thank you. Yes.
Jason, you want to tell us what equality is?
Well, I want to add a little bit to that definition of equity. And, so I think equity, ultimately you have to recognize the circumstance that people are in and the difference between them. Now, for equality.
So you can get what you deserve. You get all your needs met, right?
Well, no? I would think that, like I said, when you say you get what you deserve, I think, you've got to recognize that you may deserve a little bit more just because your situation says it, your circumstances says it. So,
all right, go ahead. Okay.
But for equality,
right.
Equality is equal. I'm going to give everybody the same, and
everybody
I'm going to give everybody the same.
Well, I tell y'all what, even by the end of this talk we're having, I'm more nervous now than I was before, because, man, this going to get real deep. We're going to pick one topic. We're going to do one at a time in the future, because y'all said some things. I mean, I really want to comment on them, but we're going to be on the phone for the next 2 hours if I start asking these questions. So I want to say this, that's something that we definitely have to look forward to, something that we definitely have to really, truly start kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, learning about in our community, so that we can continue to grow and grow as a people and not just individuals. I know that we need to grow as individuals so that we can grow as a people. It all goes hand in hand. But I will say somebody has to be first, and we all need to stand up, and we all need to do the right thing. We all need to do, because it's for the greater good. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get ready to sign off. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm sorry if I made this a little difficult, but I really love what you guys were saying. And I love you, brothers. I appreciate you always being here for me. And as we always say about this time, Sister Kim, go ahead and cue us up. But I want to say, find what you love. I need you to embrace it and chase it. And that is your relentless pursuit. This man is Sedric. I'm bidding everybody a wonderful weekend. God bless you. And I want you to know we love you, and we're praying for everybody. Y'all take care. Have a good evening. Sister Kim, we'll talk to y'all later.
Shout out D on the track, Paint Music Media. Shout out DJ Lee Productions, and I'm Al Ken. But if you a game changer, got my head, my grind don't hide. Win, lose, or draw, I'ma ride till I die. I go hard in that lane, my God is the aim. Put me in, coach, and watch me change the game. Cause I'm a game changer, 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 I'm a game changer. I'm full court press, I pledge allegiance to the best. Ain't nothing left to give it that reverence that the Father gets. So every day I work the sweat, can get a flesh, another rest. They say go hard or go home. I say just do whatever's best. It's evident I'm blessed and I work like it. Fight like a Viking, fight like a lichen. The difference is I like it, so I shine like I'm lightning. So I'm going head to head with certain depth. Who you liking? Yeah. So it's time for coach to put me in. I'm strapping on my shoulder pads, lacing up my cleats, and then I'm gone with the wind. Like I'm gone in 60 seconds. You can't hold me, you can't check me. Check the memo, check the message running through. Like I'm bad as I'm trucking whoever standing in my way. Ain't no way you gon' stop me. You better off to let me in, cause I go hard, even though they say no way that I could win. Like I'm Brett Ford, I'ma ride this way, my head to the sky. My grind don't hide, win, lose, or drought. I'ma ride till I die. I go hard in that lane. My God is the aim. Put me in, coach, and watch me change the game. Cause I'm a game changer. 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 Yeah, I told you once before, my God came to change the game. Different outlook on to life, a different way to play the lane. Now my rushing yours is skyrocketing. Now I'm so insane. For the kingdom building, now my shot, it cannot be contained. So I'm gon' pray for change for myself and then what I can. I don't need no euros or no pesos or no money grams. Shout out to Wado, cause I know that he gon' play this fam. The FCA sports camp, game changer, summer jam. I don't need 100 grand to tell them that they need the lamb. It's heaven, ain't just who I am. Al Kim, this where I stand. Man, I'm gon' play the fist. It's so deep to turn it quick. It's like I'm out from the trap to turn around, get back in it. Never that's so insane. It's evident your book they chain. Like I'm Jack Johnson, the same year he changed his name. So I sacrifice my life for the cause, just to win. And if you a game changer, let me see my head represent. My grind don't hide, win, lose, or drought. I'ma ride till I die. I go hard in that lane. My God is the aim. Put me in, coach, and watch me change the game. Cause I'm a game changer. 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 Now put me in, coach. 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 I'ma go hard.
I'ma go hard. I'ma go hard. I'ma go hard.
Cause I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer. I'm